There is no experience that God is not intimately connected with. Hello. Hello, 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 hello. Hello! It's my day off. And that can only mean one thing. Vlog day. So, let's go do our chores. Oh my god, it's so rainy. Ah. Come with me and let's get a cup of tea because we are going to need it for this discussion. Hi. I suppose this fact only occurred to me last Sunday, that God experiences all suffering. I was walking out from church to get cash to buy a cup of hot water, and I was crossing the street, and this sentence just came into my head, and I was like, I just heard it, basically. I heard it up here, and I was like, it said, God experiences all suffering. It made me stop, and I was like, oh, that's true. And I was thinking about the Christian religion and what it contributes to the world and to philosophy. Its unique contribution, I think, is God as the suffering man and God as the man in pain on the cross. I think that is the main unique contribution of Christianity to the worldviews and the world religions. This image, this revelation of God as the suffering man. And that image of God is profoundly different to God as the distant judge, God on the throne, God dividing what is good and what is not good, and what is sacred, what is secular. But God as the participant in human history, in human pain and human suffering. That's Jesus on the cross. That's the revelation of Christianity. Now, what took it a step further for me, or what kind of just consolidated it, basically, was when I realized, taking the doctrine of divine simplicity, which is a doctrine I will quickly explain, taking it basically to the logical conclusion that God experiences everything with us because the Holy Spirit's here and God's everywhere and Jesus was incarnate in the flesh and walked around in humanity. So, the divine simplicity, real quick, is a very old doctrine. I found it more prevalent in Catholic spheres than Protestant. In fact, I've been a Protestant for 24 years, and basically I was born a Protestant. No, okay, but you know, like, I was raised in Protestantism, and the divine simplicity never came up, ever. But basically it's the doctrine of God not being a being among other beings, but rather God is being itself. God is the act of existence. And that is, you know, it might not necessarily be a non-Protestant doctrine, but it never came up for me. So maybe I just missed it. I miss things all the time. And, you know, I find it hard to find mugs in my own cupboard of mugs. This doctrine changed everything for me, because if God is not is not so much the judge on the throne, but rather the participant, the ultimate participant in all of life, and is closer to each of us than the air we breathe. That does so much good to the image of God that I now have. Like, that did so much good, because it made God not tribal, it made him not Jewish, not Christian, not an American, you know, and it just made God the size he's supposed to be, and made him way bigger. God does not belong to any group. God just is, and we belong to him. And when you come at things like that, you will find pretty interesting dialogue with Buddhists and other people like that, but that's a different topic. Let's go back to God experiences all suffering. You know, Psalm 139. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to heavens, you are there. If I go up to the heavens, if I make my bed in the depths, you are there. God experiences all joy as well. That has to be the following thing. And so basically realizing that God is everywhere and is not merely just observing, but is participating in everything, it gives meaning to everything. And Paul says, I think in Colossians, I think it's Colossians, there is only Christ. He is everything and is in everything. I don't know what to say about that, really. I just wanted to throw that in because it's so profound. So the Christian notion of hope is not necessarily things will get better for me or things will get better, even though we can hope for that too, and we should work for that. We should work to improve our situation and the situation of our neighbor. But the hope that passes understanding is the deep knowledge that somehow God is in this, that you can always say, somehow God is in this. I had a really profound experience about almost a year ago, probably a year ago actually. I was pretty new at my job and I was just closing this bar alone by myself, and I was cleaning stuff and I was scrubbing this floor and I just felt the undeniable presence of God, because at that time I was like, wow, this is my job. I scrub floors. I had a great education, I went to university, and now this is my job. And I just felt it was a humiliating feeling. It was a very humbling feeling of like, maybe I'm not that important, in the grand scheme of things. But at the same time, it was such a worshipful period for me, like moment in time, because I definitely knew that God was there and was experiencing what I was experiencing, and it connected me to this bigger narrative of God being on the side of all the poor and all the oppressed. Not that I was poor or oppressed just because I'm working in a bar and cleaning stuff, but it felt like I was quite diminished. At the time I was like, well, I didn't think this would be my life. I thought I'd be doing something that seemed more noteworthy. I don't know. But I felt really connected to something bigger than myself. So how does God experience all suffering? There is no experience that God is not intimately connected with. God even participates in our sin, not condoning it, not willing it, but by allowing it and allowing it to wound him. God knows that staying vulnerable is the only path to real relationship. I'm not saying that God sins, okay? But I'm saying that God is right there when we sin, and he is in our body when we sin, and in our mind when we sin. And sin is not a distance, as Simone Weil will say. Sin is not a distance from God. Sin is the wrong orientation of our soul. Sin is looking in the other direction of God. And this is why I prefer now in life to see God as the all vulnerable one and not the almighty one. Because almighty, it is true, God is almighty, God made everything, God is everywhere and knows everything and can do anything. But look at everything that God is allowing right now in this world. Do you think God is controlling it with buttons and mechanisms? No, I think God is very much allowing and forbearing. He is doing this because God is calling us all into a knowledge of relationship with him. And that is a profound mystery. But it gives every suffering and every joy meaning, because we are connected to the story of God and the suffering of God. Paul talks about knowing Christ in his suffering. And I think I'm beginning to understand that. I don't claim to have any understanding of the whole thing, as this rant has been very all over the place. But I think you can get a sense of suffering has meaning now, not just because you will be healed or because it will end and it will have a happy ending. That is sort of superficial meaning. But the real meaning of suffering, and not that suffering is a good, and I don't think we should seek it out, but when I realized that there was one suffering, that God is the one suffering, and I'm a participant in that, I immediately felt no longer alone in my pain, and I immediately knew of a deep, deep love that was encompassing all my experience in reality. And it almost didn't matter to me anymore whether my pain would go away or not, because I knew I wasn't alone and that all of it has meaning. So I hope that encourages you in some way. Yeah, I hope it also makes you ask questions about what is suffering, what does it mean, what is pain, what is happiness, and where is God in all of that. Yeah. Alright, I'm gonna go now because I gotta do my homework. But that's kind of what I wanted to say. Yeah, bye.